We're talking today about one-point perspective. One-point perspective refers to a situation where you are able to observe architectural space when your viewpoint is parallel and perpendicular to the architecture. So it's as if you are sitting in a room looking down at yourself. There's your eyes, your nose, your shoulders. Maybe you're sitting down, so here's your knees and your feet. And you have a cone of vision, so everything that you can see falls within this cone of vision. The further back you are from the subject matter, the more you can see of it. The closer up you are, the less you can see. This would be your picture plane. So if there's a wall right here you're looking right at, this is your picture plane within the cone of vision. If you are in a one-point perspective situation, you're typically looking at a wall, some form of architecture, vertical plane that is parallel to your picture plane. And you're sitting or standing in a situation where you also have walls that are then perpendicular to your picture plane. And this would create the point of view that we refer to as one-point perspective. If instead you're sitting like this, same situation, eyes, nose, shoulders, knees, feet, here's your cone of vision. But instead of having a parallel architecture parallel to your picture plane, you actually have a wall right here and a wall right here. This would actually be a two-point perspective situation. Anything that is skewed from architecture being parallel to your picture plane, parallel and perpendicular, is going to be a two-point perspective situation. And in all cases, when we're drawing in perspective, we're talking about a fixed point of view. We're not talking about being able to get up and move around. So with this model, we always need to make sure that we set ourselves in the right situation. A couple of other key terms: horizon line, also known as eye level. So the horizon line is determined by the distance between the floor and the artist's eyes. So for instance, I stand at about 6 feet 2 inches. So my eyes, when I'm standing up, are about 6 feet from the floor. So here I am, there's my nose, here are my eyes, I'm smiling. This is my stick figure me, feet, and here's the floor. Here's my eye level, 6 feet. Of course, if I sit down, still smiling, but now I'm sitting, then my eye level changes closer to 4 feet. And that will change my view or perspective of my surroundings, the architecture and everything. It changes my eye level or my horizon line. We're going to model some one-point perspective. I'm starting here with this model on my sketchbook. You will also use your sketchbook as you complete this model. It might actually be very easier to take the paper out of the sketchbook, tearing along the perforation, because we're going to be using a ruler today, and I don't want the spiral binding getting in the way of my ruler. This will be one of two assignments that we're going to use a ruler. I'm just going to start by lining up my ruler against the left edge here, and I'm going to draw a light line and make a border. And then I'm going to line it up along the bottom edge here. Don't follow along right now, just listen until you've seen the whole demonstration, and then if you want to follow along later, you can do that. So I'm just going to make this ruler's width border all the way around my drawing. I really don't see any reason to draw all the way to the edge of the paper. It's mechanically awkward, and I think it's visually awkward. So neither the artist nor the viewer benefits. So all of my drawing will take place within this boundary. We're going to basically be drawing some cubilinear forms, meaning that they'll have the implied 6 sides like a cube has. They may not be cubical. Cubical would be all equal planes, but these will be cubilinear in 1-point perspective. And we have to decide where our horizon line is going to be. I'm going to measure down from the top border to the bottom border. Looks like about 11 3/4 of an inch, but I'm just going to measure down to 8 inches here from the top border, and I'm going to make a little mark. And on the other border, the right border, I'm also going to measure down from the top border 8 inches. That way I can connect those two marks with my ruler. They will be creating a line, a horizon line, or if you will, a horizontal line that is parallel to the bottom border and the top border, perpendicular to the side borders. I don't want this line to be skewed at all. And I'm labeling it horizon line, dark enough that you can see it on the video. You don't have to do it that dark. You can even just put HL or EL, eye level. Somewhere along that horizon line, I am going to pick what we call a vanishing point, or VP, or if you want, central vanishing point. Though I do not want to put it in the center. I don't want you to put it in the center. The central vanishing point simply implies the central vertical axis that you would see. Once again, looking down on top of the head, here's my nose, shoulders. We have our cone of vision coming out like this, and our central vertical axis would be where we are looking towards the center of that wall on the back. Okay, so wherever that central vertical axis crosses the horizon line on the back wall, if you're on an interior space, you would have your vanishing point. So if you're closer to this side of a room and further away from this side, so this is slightly closer, your central vanishing point would be further to the right on the paper, further from the left. We can kind of indiscriminately choose it here because we're not actually going to be observing a space. So we're going to go with maybe 7 inches from the right border, make a mark on the bottom border, 7 inches from the right border, make a mark on the top border. And we're going to line up the ruler, and we're going to draw a very faint line here representing our central vertical axis. And then where the central vertical axis crosses the horizon line or eye level, that's where we have our central vanishing point. It's a single vanishing point for 1-point perspective. So in 1-point perspective, you have a set of rules that you have to follow. Number 1, establish eye level or horizon line. Number 2, establish central vertical axis. Number 3, identify central vanishing point. And this is where 1 and 2 cross. And number 4, you have to observe this rule. All vertical lines in architecture, and we're going to put parenthetically what did I call it? Cuborectal? I don't even know if that's a word, I just made it up. Cuborectal forms will remain vertical and parallel to sides of paper. 5, all horizontal lines in architecture, and we're going to say all parallel because they're parallel to our picture plane. So all parallel horizontal lines in architecture remain horizontal or parallel to top and bottom of page. Number 6, all horizontal, and we're going to say perpendicular, lines in architecture connect or vanish, quote unquote, to the central vanishing point. So we can start with sharpening our pencil again. Super important that you keep your pencil sharp when you're dealing with perspective. We are simply going to start by drawing a square or a rectangle. And let's draw that rectangle. We want to make sure we keep them parallel so that you have sides that are vertical and parallel to the sides of the paper, and top and bottom that are parallel to the top and bottom of the paper. So I'm going to come in from the side margin to 4 inches, make a mark, and I'm going to make another 4-inch mark. We'll just do this on the bottom margin, 4 inches there. While I'm at it, why don't I make another mark at 6.5 from the side. We'll do both of those. All right. Now I'm going to do the same thing on the side margin. I'm going to measure down from the top. Let's just say 4 inches and 6.5. On the left side, 4 inches, 6.5 on the right side. Now, I'm not going to draw these lines all the way across, but I'm going to line up my ruler, and I'm going to draw those lines as they cross over my vertical lines, which I don't see yet, but I can tell where they will be. Like that. Lining up now for vertical lines. Here's one. Also, I'm not drawing them all the way across the page. We're just making that square. All right. Now, I'm going to connect some of these perpendicular lines. They would not be parallel to my picture plane. They would be running perpendicular down to the vanishing point. So I'm using the vanishing point as a common spot. And I'm lining my ruler up, anchoring my pencil down to that vanishing point. And I'm going to the four corners of this square and connecting to the vanishing point. Very lightly, not overly dark here. And we will even connect that far one there. Okay. We're going to measure. That was 6.5. Let's do 7 inches from the top. Right here, 7 inches. We'll do the same thing over on this side. You'll end up with a lot of little tick marks on your paper. We're going to line up the ruler on those 2 tick marks, and we're going to draw from where the perpendicular line is going down to the vanishing point to where the other perpendicular line is going down to the vanishing point. We're just going to draw a line there. And we're going to measure from the left side over to where that line that we just drew crosses this diagonal. It's 6 and 15/16, almost 7 inches. So we're going to measure 6 and 15/16 here on the top margin and on the bottom margin. If you need to learn how to use a ruler, I have a handy video that breaks it down for you, how to read the measurements on a ruler. I'll post it here, linked in the video. Okay, so here we are. We're going to make our line. Should cross right over the corner. And we're going to draw that line until it comes up and touches this other horizontal. Where is that point in relation to our borders? We've got about 5, and it looks like 5/16. So we're going to make that over here 5/16, and I'll just connect that over from that point to this point over here. Draw it lightly. And it only needs to go till it hits this other diagonal. Well, now you have these 2 points here and here, and you can connect a line between the two. And you have your first cube in 1-point perspective. What we're going to do with this cube, I've got a little smaller ruler here. I'm going to do some darkening of lines on the front part to give it an even more emphasized division of space. So the lines that are closer to me in this imaginary space are going to be darker. The lines that are further away will be lighter, finer lines. All right. I am, however, going to darken some of these lines that are on the outside of the cube and leave the ones that are kind of transparent lighter, ones that you'd see through. And this will help me as a learner to solidify in my mind what's actually happening in that space. So what we're going to do then is draw some other cubical shapes. Oh, I missed one. This line needs to come in too. Yeah, that makes more sense. Okay. So now that cube feels like it's projecting towards us. We're going to make another cube. just to review the process. Maybe we'll make this one bigger. Maybe we'll make it smaller. Let's see. Let's come in on the right side. Oh, I'm going to come in 6 inches on the top border here from the right side. And we'll do the same thing down here. 6 inches on the bottom border. And I guess while we're at it, how about we make 2 inches? We'll make a big cube here. 2 from that side too. Should have done this earlier. And then we'll come down. Let's do 3 inches. And we'll do the 7-inch mark again. 3 inches. And we already have the 7-inch mark. So now let's draw a line. We're going to use my 3B. We're not going to draw it dark. We're connecting those 2 points, but we're only going to draw in this quadrant. Connect those 2 points. Draw in this quadrant. Connect these 2 points. 1 and 2. Draw across there. Connect these 2 points again. And here. Bigger. Similar situation. We can now connect to the vanishing point from these 4 corners. So you can anchor to the corner and then find the vanishing point, or anchor to the vanishing point and find the corner. Maybe I'll go with my smaller ruler just to be a little less unwieldy. In this case, we're just using it as a straight edge. Boom. While we're at it, we will go to this one here. They're very similar. And I'm just drawing lightly. We'll come here to this corner, and then we'll come to this corner down here, like that. Okay, so we have the front face, and we'd want the back edge, the back. We have these 4 lines. We need the back 4 lines as well, as if the cube were transparent. So really the only thing we're changing is the size. So let's see here. What if we put that back line 6.5 inches over? Once again, I'm going to put my reference points on the borders. So I'm measuring in from the right border on the top and bottom margins to find that reference point. And we're going to have to switch my ruler back to my larger one because it won't stretch otherwise. I would expect in your drawing that I will see these reference points on your drawing. All right, so there's that back line. How about, I'm going to do a little bit of erasure here if I can find an eraser. I'm just going to take this eraser. This is a kneaded eraser. And I'm going to just make this visually a little more legible for everybody to see what's going on here. We're even going to erase the central vanishing point letters that I've got there. There. We might as well erase that line on this other cube while we're at it. I don't like these erasers for this kind of precision work, but it's what I got. Okay, I accidentally erased a little bit of my line there. I'm going to draw it back in. There we go. All right, so I've got one of the back lines. I'm going to need another one, and another one, and another one. So what I want to find out is where this intersects here. How far is that from one of my borders? That's 5.5 inches. I have to make another mark at 5.5 over here on my side margin. Line the 2 up, draw it across, like that. Well, now where does that intersect? from the edge, from my side margin, that's just under 4.5 inches. So if I maintain that just under 4.5 down here on the bottom, then I should be able to bring that down lightly and come across this bottom diagonal line. And then these two should line up pretty well. Okay, so started here, went up, over, down, and over again, and ended up where I left off. And now it's just a matter, once again, of taking your darker pencil. I'm going to use a darker pencil, or you could just use more pressure with your lighter pencil, as long as it's not particularly hard and light. And then we're going to draw in the lines that we would be able to see, and leave the other lines as if this were a solid cube. Okay, so here we go. Good exercise for your brain and perception. One more right here, as if this were solid. And those things are inside. Now, if we actually wanted to make this feel like it was a box that we could see into, in that case, we would then also outline here and here. Notice that as I make the intersection, I don't keep drawing here or here. And then we're going to take this other diagonal here down to the corner. Then we don't keep drawing there. In fact, if you want, you could erase these lines and come to the vanishing point. And then anything else that is just guidelines you could erase. Maybe not a bad idea. Use whatever eraser you've got. Okay. Let's look and see if we kept to my rules. First rule was to establish eye level or horizon line. Of course, we got that. Establish the central vertical axis, determine where they cross. That's the vanishing point. Rule number 4, all vertical lines in the architecture forms must be vertical, parallel to the sides. How many of those lines do I have so far? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, they're all parallel. You notice that each of these cubes, so you're going to have 4 of those vertical lines. 2 sets of parallels. All parallel horizontal lines in the architecture remain horizontal, parallel to the top and bottom of your page. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Great. Oh yeah, rule number 6. All perpendicular horizontal lines in the architecture will connect or vanish to the central vanishing point. So 1, 2, 3, 4. These become diagonals. 1, 2, 3, 4 to the vanishing point. These would be perpendicular to our picture plane, and you want to make sure that if they aren't horizontal lines that are parallel to your picture plane or vertical lines, that all other lines have to go to the vanishing point in one point perspective. Okay, so if I have a line that's doing this, is neither parallel to the sides or the top, and it doesn't go to the vanishing points, it's diagonal, that line doesn't count. That would be a line that would not be in the drawing for one point perspective. simple 1-point perspective. All right, let's do another one. This time, I am going to straddle a cube, or maybe just a rectangle. On the bottom here, it's going to straddle the central vertical axis. And I'm not going to do it evenly. We'll straddle it on one side more than the other, so that we can see what happens there. With these that are definitely in one quadrant or the other, you can see a side, the outside, and you can see the bottom. With this one, we'll be able to see the top of the box, but we won't be able to see the outsides of the box. So let's start by measuring over from the left side. We're going to go to 4.5. Make a mark. We'll do the same thing at the top margin from the left side, measuring in 4.5 inches. Follow on another one. This one's going to come over to 9 inches from the left side. So this is going to be a fairly large rectangle. 9 inches from the left side down to the bottom as well. As we build up these tick marks, we've got to be kind of careful how many we get on there, and we don't want to get confused where they are. Okay, I'm just going to draw this very lightly, that vertical line there, and this vertical line here. Okay, now we have to decide where do we want that top coming across. Let's see, how about we measure up from the bottom, what, 2.5 inches, that would be good. So we'll do it on the left side of the page here, 2.5. And we'll do it on the right side of the page, 2.5. And we'll draw that across very lightly, just so that line goes from our first vertical to our second vertical. We don't need to draw it across the page. For the bottom, let's just bring it up 1/2 inch from the bottom border. Nothing magical about these things, as long as you're consistent and you keep the rules. Right there. All right. The easiest thing to do at this point is to take your 4 corners and connect them to the vanishing point. Here's corner number 1, upper left, and we're going to the vanishing point. Maybe it'd be easier to see if I take the ruler on this side. Corner number 2, upper right to the vanishing point. These are our horizontal lines that are perpendicular to the picture plane. They become diagonals on our page. And here we go. All right, now since we don't have a box that goes all the way back to the vanishing point, we have to cut it off somewhere. Let's go ahead and make another cutoff point. We're going to go 3 inches up from the bottom, make a tick mark. 3 inches up from the bottom and make a tick mark. And we'll rule that line in. Take a moment to ask yourself, where does this line start and where does it stop? I don't want to draw it all the way across. It only really needs to go from diagonal to diagonal, even though it connects to points that are all the way across the page. Well, once we've drawn that, we've established 2 more corners that will help us to make the rest of this box. What we need to do with those 2 corners is measure how far across the page they are. So this first one measures 5 and 13, no, 11 sixteenths, 11, 12, 13, 14, no, 13, 14, 15, that's 5 and 13 sixteenths from the left edge. It's down low, so I'm going to go up to the top border, stretch these reference points out a bit. 5 and 13 sixteenths is up there. So now I have a point here, and I have a point here. Align my ruler along those 2 points, and then I'm going to draw a light line starting with this point down until it crosses over the diagonal down here. That gives me a new corner that I can measure. It is up from the bottom 1 and almost 7/8 of an inch, not quite 7/8 of an inch. So let's come over here. 1 and 7/8 of an inch. And we'll draw that one. I'm going to reference the point on the side and draw our line over. Now, if you've done this right, this point that you've just created should be vertically right beneath this point that you had from the start. And you should just be able to line up your ruler and connect those. And that should end up being a vertical line. Okay, once again, we are going to emphasize the vertical nature, or the visible nature of our exterior lines here. Just like we do in gesture drawing, when we refine the gesture drawing, we emphasize the line that we want to keep. How far does this line go? We're only going to draw from here to there. It's almost so small that you could freehand it. But since we're using rulers, let's go ahead and use the ruler. Okay, so if that were solid, like a box, we wouldn't see any of these other lines here. And if it were hollow, like this one is here, we could draw in these other lines. You decide. I'm going to take the high road and make it a hollow box, just because I am wanting to learn, do the extra mile here. Make sure I understand things well as a student. Don't want to just jump through the hoops. At which point, maybe we will take away our extended lines. We may even erase the central vertical axis as it pronounces itself through the form. And there we have, oh, I'm going to erase that one too. There. Now we have that box projected and hollow going that direction. There's room to draw some more. You could keep playing with it, but for now, that's pretty good. We may just leave it that way. Your drawing should have the same components as my drawing, at least 3 of these cubical forms. They should, of course, follow the rules, but I would also be looking to see that you put all your reference points outside the drawing, that you have your central vanishing point certainly there, that you have your horizon line on there, your central vertical axis. I'm going to be looking for all of this in your drawing.